Hello, happy Monday.
We are so happy to see you, everybody. Journeyers, you out there in La La Land.
You tuning in. We are glad that you're here. We are glad that we can see you through our magical improv on and off cameras. That we can see. If we ever turn this into an audio, we can see you too. Picking your nose.
You're the best. How are you, Emily?
I'm all right. Coming along. Little dude's 3 months now. He can hold his head up like a champ.
Happy birthday, little dude.
So it's very cool seeing that guy. Seeing that guy do things is really cool. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. I am what am I? I was telling you earlier that I'm like in better moods. Consistent, what would you call this? Consistent emotional moods.
Like a consistent state of being, like not
instead of like the whole up and down that we're all like, this up and down, it.
Yeah.
I don't know if pregnant women go through it. I'm sure pregnant women just have no emotions.
No, there's nothing like going on affecting like our bodies at all. Like there's no hormones, no nothing. It's just like pretty normal, pretty stoic. I have not cried over, TV shows or cute little books or just adorable onesies at all. No.
No. I should say like childbearing people. I'm sure childbearing people go through zero emotions. I'm sure people who are any people who have families, any people who have work, any people on the planet that aren't me, all of you probably have zero emotions, and I am the only one.
You're the only one to experience emotions. That's why therapy doesn't exist. JK, everyone go to therapy.
Everybody go to therapy. Okay, listen. So we're here. This is what I have for us today.
Ooh. What does improv say about connecting others?
Yes. What role do we play and how do we do it? Oh my gosh. So I was like, I kept reading this as what does improv say about connecting with others? But that's not it. It's not what I'm
you wrote this. You know that, right?
You leave me be, Emily Arnold filming. You leave. Wow, that's not. It's so many things.
Yeah, all right. Let's talk about how we connect others, how we connect people.
Yeah, and it's like in this thing of like I'm the only one with emotions. I'm the only one. This thought of just being stable is a good word. How about consistent in my sort of flow, not as deep dive and high peaks, more just like nice rolling hills and valleys. In that I have been able to focus on other people. Wow, go figure, right?
Amazing.
Go fig. I can focus on other people, and I see places where connections can be made, like friendships between people who don't know each other, friendships, working relationships, or just like feathered, I don't know, some apart connections that are breaking, where you're watching your friends sort of go through like, oh, they're going through this like disconnect even.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's been crossing my mind, okay, like now that I have some space for myself, now that I feel nice and stable, how do I help them? How do I help other people connect with
Ooh.
out there? Not
With
with
each
me.
other, yeah,
Don't connect with me.
Yeah.
Love
I
it.
I think that's a cool question. When we think about improvisers as, like, facilitators, right? Uh, and if you're, like, a 101 student and you're like, "I'm just here to learn and perform," this might not be where you are right now. But for those of us who've been in the game for a while, right, who
Mm,
are teaching classes and who are taking our show on the road and doing like some applied stuff, yeah, we
yes.
become facilitators for the people in the room with us to connect with each other. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This is really interesting because what I love this improvisers as facilitators because it actually we need to be able to set an environment in which you and I do this all the time, right? We need to be able to set an environment in which people feel comfortable even connecting.
Mhm.
And before when you and I facilitate together and we teach, one of the big things I love to do is have people move around the room. The very,
Mhm.
very first thing is just move around the room, move your bodies. And I got so much pushback when I first started doing that. I had people, what does this have to do with improv? Why aren't we working on scene work? Blah. We're spending like 10 whole minutes of class breathing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the thing is that we're doing those things because improv is such a vulnerable space to be. This
Yeah.
idea that you can say this idea, it's an idea, right? That you can say anything, be anything, do anything can really open up vulnerable spaces for people. And so just like getting in touch with our bodies, bringing our heart rates down, breathing, being present,
Mhm.
all of those things help the people doing the improv actually connect to each other.
Right, yeah, and the fact that, like, we start off with everyone doing those vulnerable things too, right?
Mhm.
We don't put one person on the spot and say, "You,
Too
Freddie,
vulnerable.
go, uh, let's have everyone watch you while you breathe." Everyone is in it together,
Mhm.
which also helps with that vulnerability piece, right?
Right.
Uh, if you're all doing it, then no one is singled out. You're all experiencing the same things. You're all forming these bonds together.
Mhm. We talk about that sort of in matching when we talk about meerkatting or just matching people's energy on stage and how we can connect in how we can connect with other people directly.
Mhm,
And doing that even when you aren't trying to connect with somebody, but you're trying to level the room
mhm,
helps with that, right? Like
mhm,
when I walk into a room and I see people who are anxious, I can look and see, okay, who are the anxious people? Sure. Who are the people who are not anxious? What are they doing? Let's
mhm.
add to that energy.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? What are they doing? Maybe they're cleaning, maybe they're just sitting with tea, maybe they're offering tea, right? Uh where am I going that people are offering tea? So many places, I guess.
Mhm, yeah. I
But
we need to go more places where people are just offering us
are
tea, I
offering
think.
tea,
Yeah.
right? But finding or being the energy that helps to level people. And on stage, before, we're talking about on stage and off stage. On stage, that looks like being aware of what the scene needs to to fill out. Like maybe it's not you that the scene needs, like a protagonist or another character. It just needs something like another tree. Or a perfect example is when people say, hey, oh, welcome to such and such a restaurant. What can I get for you? Instead of coming in as a waiter, you can come in and just sit in the back as a patron in this restaurant. You can just sit there and read a paper. You don't have to be a character at all.
Yeah, and you're fleshing out the environment and really building the scene for what you want it to be. Similar to if you are leading a group of people, you are setting the scene for what you want that kind of environment to be, right? I like my environments to be very focused on positive social reinforcement, right? And so I do little things, whether it's right up front or kind of in the background, to set that environment, just like we would either coming on as a waiter or sitting in the background. And what I mean by that is like if I'm leading, either I'm like, straight up saying with my mouth, like, hey, great job, and giving specific feedback. I like the way that you made that choice. Or while people are performing or I'm letting other people talk, like sitting and being attentive and using my body language to show that, hey, we're still engaging and paying attention to people, smiling, etc.
I wanted to take a second just to say hi to the people watching. If you have comments, please put them in the chat. Just wherever you're watching from, put them in the chat. We'll see them and we'll comment on them and talk to you about your comments. But this is where we are right now. What does improv say about connecting others? What role do we play and how do we do it? And this is so far what we've discussed is like this: what role do we play? Usually what role we're playing is observing. We're observing to see what the energy is. We are trying to match the energy that is the sustainable sort of ground setting, right? Like, all right, how do we help people feel comfortable? What energy is that? So we're matching that energy. That's how we do it. I'm wondering about it's like, wow, what else do we do when we are helping? Oh, you know what another thing is that is so fun to do? This is very specific, but on stage in Shakespeare scenes, connecting others, being the bard. People love to get on stage and just immediately be the two protagonists, right? In a Shakespeare scene, but being the person, the puck, the person who's narrating and connecting scenes together really helps to support what's going on. And you can do that. That's great in Shakespeare, but you can do that with other scenes.
Because first of all, there are no rules, but second of all, like a standard thing that you could see would be like scene painting, right? Would be coming on and painting what that character is wearing, maybe, that we can't see and that hasn't been explicitly said, or what the environment is like, or maybe even like some backstory, like, oh, they're secretly thinking this. You can totally do that to help them connect not only to their story but to their relationship. Absolutely. And I think, I lost it again. Mom brain's at it again.
I need to make us a little like animation.
It's just like thoughts leaving my brain, like whoop.
That's okay. We're the whole bring it back. We're talking about it'll come back. There was a thought I had that I'm now slowly losing. On stage scene painting, there it is. For me, off stage, in that same bit that you're talking about, scene painting and person painting, what you're saying is showing the audience or even showing the improvisers things that aren't there. And off stage, there is especially in conversation, when we're hearing two people sort of go at it, asking questions helps to do that scene painting, asking questions. This is what you said. This is what I'm hearing this is what I'm hearing. Does that make sense to the group? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That, you know what? That is exactly what I was thinking was, how do we do this off stage as well?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's with our friends doing that thing. But I also want to talk about, because we were kind of talking about facilitating it, how when you're in a like a leadership role, how are we doing that too?
Yes. Yes. This is
Uh,
so good. Yeah.
and
Like the
I
idea that we're painting. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like being able to say like, I see that so and so is doing this thing, and it's awesome. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if, and they'll be like, I don't know if you noticed, but over there, they're also doing that thing, or
Mm-hmm.
they're doing that thing, but in a slightly different way. What if you tried that? Or
Right. Right. And just noticing, trying to get people to envision the same story. As a leader, I feel like that's, if depending on what the goal is or what type of leader you are, but the feeling of hearing people, repeating what you hear, and letting letting your team respond to that information, like hear, like, oh, is that what I said? No, this is what I meant. And then together they can build the story, right? Or get
Mhm.
to the goal instead of you just saying what you want them to do, right?
Yeah, 1,000%. Like who listen, who hates it when people just straight up tell you what to do? Like, for the most part, unless, I mean, there are some situations where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, tell me what to do. But like if I'm at work, it's definitely more more engaging, more reinforcing, more interesting
Mhm.
for us, for like me to at least feel like my input is happening, right?
Right.
Um, that the outcome of whatever's happening is affected by what I'm saying or doing.
Mhm.
And similar to if you're leading a group of people, if you're like a manager, uh, you know, helping them feel like they are contributing and that things are, and not even like helping them feel like that, but like actually letting them, you know what I mean?
Actually,
Like not being like, I'm being sneaky and
right. No, yeah, actually, and that actually helping them to feel, helping them understand that they are valued and they, what they have to offer is valued.
Mhm,
And that I'm gonna like loop us back to the very beginning, because I feel like that's about laying a foundation of trust, right? We lay the foundation of ev- everyone. Listen, we're talking some real, like, the world is the perfect place. I get it. But laying a foundation where everybody feels heard, everybody feels seen. And the thing is that sometimes to do that, you step out of the way. So in this is where I'm bringing it all the way back, where we are just the trees or the background or the customers in the um, cafe on in a set. Like, we're contributing to the world and the story, but not in a way that we're pushing any one agenda. We're just like, hey, look, this is what we all agreed on, right? Cool. Let's lock down this foundation so that your team, and in this case it's your improv team, can build on that foundation. And in
mhm.
improv we call those offers.
And you said just a minute ago, you were like, "Oh, in a perfect world, boop, boop, boop." But, I mean, I think this is one of the many reasons why, uh, learning improv and learning how to teach and apply it to your life is so valuable, right?
Mhm.
Because we're kind of able to make a slightly more perfect world in that way,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Um, you can tell a work there's just a difference in like a work environment or like a team environment or like even like a practice, right? where I had been before I went on maternity leave, we would kind of rotate practices, and you can tell the difference between people who are like, I am confident in stepping back and like letting you facilitate your own conversations, and the people who were like, this is what I want you to do, and this is how I want you to do it. And often one of those is more pleasurable than the other. And you get more out of it, right?
You do. And we talk about, not only do we get more, when you're saying we get more out of it, what you're saying also is this shared information, this richer story, right? The way we go at things when we are like, we're trying to tell people what to do, right? You do this. I keep thinking there's two other people in this room with me.
Yeah.
Like, you do this and you do that, and that way this thing will occur. Sure, maybe you boil the water and you put the spaghetti in it. That way we'll have dinner. Like, sure, that's one way to do it. Or I can say, hey, I'd like spaghetti for dinner. I'm bringing pots. This is the foundation. I'm bringing spaghetti for dinner, or I'd like spaghetti for dinner. Or you said you wanted spaghetti for dinner. Like, how can I build a foundation there that helps you feel good about it? Because now these two can talk about what they're good at. Maybe one of them's good at chopping and not really so good at watching water boil or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe one of them makes like a super awesome sauce, and they're like, I want to be in charge of sauce time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
I think I like that we're moving more into like equal relationships now to talk about, because I think that's also interesting when we're in a friend group or when we're in like a family situation, right? How do we help maintain connections within those groups where there isn't really a hierarchy the way there is in a job situation?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of the same principles apply, right? In terms of like, here's my offer. How so let's hear your offer. And how can we combine these offers?
One of the things that popped into my mind is when in family groups or in friend groups where people turn to you because there is a problem in the family group, like, well, your sibling said to me, this, that, and the other, and isn't that terrible, and isn't right? So where do we stand? What does improv say about connecting others there? And I feel like there's there's so much that improv says about that. One of the top ones is just pure listening.
Listen, yeah, listening. Especially with your family, right? Like, family always loves each other, or for the most part, if you're lucky, family loves each other. But even when you're lucky, your family doesn't always like each other. And that's okay. And that's okay to like vent out, the obnoxious, like the scene that your dad made inside Lazy Boy, right? Just as an example. And vent about that, but still, just because I'd be telling my husband about that doesn't mean that I want him to be like, oh, well, we hate him now.
Yeah. That's correct. Wow, that's so good, Emily. Just because on stage, what we tend to do when a character comes on stage, especially a strong character, we tend to fall in to that character. And sometimes we've got a twinning situation, right? Where we've got a pirate. The pirate is the character. And then this other person is like, I see a pirate. Me too. I'm a pirate, right? It's great. Like, that's great. You can do that. You can support that character that way. But what you're saying is just because this strong personality, this character comes on stage, doesn't mean we just jump in to who they are and what they're doing. We can take a step back. We can listen to what they have to say, look at the pirate, and then what does this entire scene need? Does it
Mhm.
need another pirate? Does it need a bird? Does it need a ship? Does it need a mermaid?
Right, yeah, it's the, like, we don't always need to solve a problem, right? In
Mhm,
fact, in improv, if we start by solving too many problems, then your scene's over in 30 seconds and it's
mhm.
boring. And similarly in life, right? Like, not everything is a problem to solve, right?
Right.
Sometimes it is, like, sometimes, like, you know, in that specific instance, me venting out to my husband, uh, maybe the thing that he can do besides listen is, I don't know, brace himself next time my dad feels like he paid too much for a rocking chair. So, like,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
and just be aware
Yeah.
that sometimes these situations happen. Sorry, Dad, for putting you on blast. Uh,
Love you, Dad.
love you.
Love you too.
Um, And so similarly with the scene work, right? Like you don't like you just said, you don't always need to jump in and be like, I need to do something about this pirate. You can be like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm aware of this pirate and we can build this world around this pirate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we're saying, what does improv say about connecting to others? Right now, we're talking about the listening and what role do we play? What role do we play, and how do we do it? And as the listener, that's one role, but we also play this observer role. Is what I'm
Mhm.
just recapping, but we play this observer role. What is needed? Is a pirate needed? Like, well, let me observe. And then how do we do it? We make a choice, right?
Mhm.
Where you and I are always talking about um, when people are stalling or hesitating on stage, asking them, make a choice, like telling them, what is the choice that you're going to make? That way, your point of view, the direction that you're going to take, the question that you're going to ask, the relationship that you're going to have is going to be easier much easier to choose. It's just going to be an easier thing because you're like, oh, I made a choice, now I can roll with it. And in this idea of connecting others, you have to make a choice for yourself. Like, who here's the word again that we always use, what are your values?
Uh-huh. What do you value in the situation? What's important to you
What's
in this
important to
moment,
you? Who
right?
are you? Yeah, who are you in this situation? Who are they? And how can you support what they need, as whatever that is. I'm thinking about whenever you and I have difficult times in classes, like where people are having either they're having difficult time connecting to the material, or they really are just like, this isn't working for me. We usually would just reset the entire class. We're not pushing people to keep going, right?
Mm. Yeah.
We're asking them to take a breath, reset. Everyone resets, and then building back up to the state they can move
Yeah.
through or negotiate through whatever is holding them.
Right. In a way, again, that is important to us, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're teaching if you're teaching an improv class and you're doing a specific activity, like let's say something like, what's a hard activity that we ask people to do?
Oh,
Um,
character morph, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Like, say we're asking people to do character morph. We want to figure out what the most important part, like, why are we doing this
Doing
exercise?
it.
You know, we're not just doing it for kicks and giggles. We're probably doing it because it fits within um, the topic of our class, right? And so, is there a way that that can be modified where we can focus on like the part that's the topic of the class and not necessarily like every single rule of character morph? right?
Right.
That your character doesn't have to be perfect, but maybe we're looking for you to try to match what the other person is doing and mirror them before you move on. Like, uh, I don't care how quickly you shift your character, even though in an ideal world it
Mhm.
would be slow. I don't care. The important part is connecting, right? So figuring out that part is going to help you when you're supporting other people who are overwhelmed as well.
Oh, I know we're like just, but you said something so good. The like finding out what is important, right? In it, when we're doing an exercise, what is important? What skill are we trying to impart or have the person walk away with? And in connecting others, that made me think about like when people don't want to talk to each other or they're fighting or and we tend to harp on things like, well, just talk to them, just talk, just go and talk to them, but maybe that's not what is needed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Maybe it's just not important. Maybe it doesn't even matter if they talk. Like, "Hey, maybe we should just let that go and we'll revisit it later," or, "You don't have to see each other for, like, a month,
For a
so."
while you can take a break.
Yeah.
Like, you can
Uh-huh.
do, there are many other ways to help people connect. And when we fall into our the patterns of like, well, this the society says you need to do these things, it can be detrimental because we really do need to figure out what is important to them, what's important to the people that, whether that's our team that we're leading or our friends or our families. And if whatever is important to them, how do we facilitate that? How do we help facilitate that in a way that works for them?
Yep. Hey, we're out of time.
Okay. You're right. I get excited. I
I
really
know.
enjoy talking to you.
I know. Me too. I have, like, 50,000 more things I could say on this subject.
I know. You should tell if you're in the chat, or now or later, ask us questions. Let us know how we can keep talking to you about it because we love it. Look, if you are helping somebody connect, help them connect on and
Off the stage.
mwah.
Bye.
Bye, friends.